I was working with this star basketball player on a high school team. It was the championship game. They were down by 1 point, and there was 30 seconds left. And so they gave it to him, thinking he was going to score their last point. With 30 seconds left on the clock, he was dribbling down court, and all of a sudden, he fumbled the ball off his foot. It ricocheted and went out of bounds. In that moment, you could see in his body language, his head was sulked over. He was kicking his feet on the ground. He knew he made a mistake and he knew he lost the game for the team. And all of a sudden, he was like spiraling downhill with negative thoughts. His coach and his team, they're all saying, "Johnny, snap out of it. Come on, man. Come on. Get back in it. Think positive." And no matter how much Johnny wanted to think positive, he couldn't. He was trapped. The negative thoughts become an emotion, and the emotions create an experience inside of you, which then turn out to become behaviors and performance. So it all starts here. It starts with the thoughts that we have, and the more that we ruminate and think about these thoughts, it's going to create a story. And whatever story it creates and latches onto, it gets bigger and bigger. Then we start to feel these emotions. Then we start to feel an experience inside of us, the emotions, and they become bigger and bigger. And automatically, it then translates into output, into behaviors. If your thoughts are negative, if you're focusing on something negative, it's going to create negative stories, negative outcomes, negative thoughts about the future. This is what I call the negative thinking trap. If you start thinking and focusing on negative thoughts and ruminating on that, you're feeding it more and more, and it becomes bigger and bigger, and it becomes a trap, and it gets harder to get out of this trap. Now, here's the trick. In sports psychology, we teach something called the neutral zone. The moment you start thinking about something negative, before it becomes a story and an experience, you just have that negative thought, you get to the neutral zone. Now, how do you get to the neutral zone? The reason why Johnny couldn't think positive is because when you're stuck in this negative thinking trap, you can't go from negative to positive. It's too big of a jump. The brain does something called scaffolding, and it likes taking little steps to get to where we want to get to, rather than making a huge jump. So scaffolding is a term in psychology meaning little by little, step by step. If you're down here, instead of trying to climb Mount Everest and get over here, just take one step. That's the neutral zone. When you're thinking negatively, just take one step out of that negative thought and into something neutral. Now, let me teach you what the neutral zone is, what it feels like, and how to do it. If you're laying in bed and having trouble sleeping because your thoughts are wandering, what do they say you do? Try counting sheep. It's not the sheep that make you sleepy. It's the act of counting that works to help detach the mind and focus off of the thoughts keeping you awake and onto something like counting, which is a neutral stimulus. So when you count, it's neutral. It doesn't create a story. It doesn't create thoughts that is going to create an internal experience with big emotions. So the more you count and focus on counting and fully engage with counting, the more you're going to be detaching your mind off of those thoughts that create stories and onto something neutral, like counting. Stanford Athletics built something called circle breathing, which we're going to cover in the next video. But essentially what I want to cover right now is this whole notion, whenever your mind starts wandering on negative thoughts, it's okay. Those are automatic. You're going to have negative thoughts. They're just going to appear. What you do with those negative thoughts matter. Instead of ruminating and focusing on them and letting them create a bigger story, go ahead and start detaching your thoughts into this whole notion of getting into the neutral zone. The next video, we're going to talk about how to actually get into the neutral zone.